Hi, I'm Ziri from Friends Funeral Home. Right now, we're going to be talking about what can you do when a person passes away, no matter if it's at home or at a facility or in the hospital, to create a special sacred moment. Often, if you are in the ICU or something, of course, you will hear the beeping of the machines and the beeping stops. And this is basically a kind of distraction from this sacred process that goes on when somebody transitions and their spirit leaves this body. There's, of course, a very amazing thing that happens because as all of us have entered these bodies through the crown of our heads, we also exit this body through the crown of our heads. And just because a person stops breathing and because the heart stops beating doesn't mean that the spirit has immediately left this body fully. Usually, spirits exit, and then it can take up to 3 days to be fully separated from the body, which is why often religions say, like for example, Christianity, the story of Jesus is that after 3 days he came back, and many want to also in Indian traditions, so they want to not immediately be cremated, but on the third day, so that the soul has ample time to exit. But before all this would happen, so I suggest to you to open the window, a very old tradition, so that the soul can kind of start expanding and taking all that space. Some people believe that death is only happening when a soul has grown so much that it basically has become too big for this little material container that our body is, that our avatar is. And so imagine the soul spreads out, but it's not totally separated yet from this body. It always comes back and looks and might stand right next to it and look at it and not fully understanding right away where it is and if it has passed now. So it actually helps to be loving with that body, hold this person's hand even though you feel they have already left, and talk to them. You can sing a song to them and you can explain what happened because they might not be fully aware where they are at this point. A beautiful thing is that you can close the eyes, just take your whole full hand and move the hand down. And usually, unless a person is very emaciated from the last few days of not eating and dehydrated, the eyes often stay shut. If they don't, people in the funeral home, if you want a viewing later, they can close them for you. There is something like called mortar rigis. You probably heard about it. This is actually only the first 24 hours that a body is stiff, and then they become loose again. Most people don't know that. They think a body stays like rigid all the time. It's actually not true. The same with the mouth. If you would like the mouth to be closed, now then is a good time to close the mouth. Maybe put a little cushion below it. Some people bind the head here together. It might disturb you though in the beginning, looking kind of funny or something. So if the person looks okay to you, then I would always recommend for you take a little time to sit with them, take deep breaths, and try to understand in your heart the immensity of what has just occurred. If you cry, everything is okay. Just allow yourself some space with that moment. You don't have to jump into action right away. When you feel you have calmed down a little bit and maybe talked a few words to the person who passed or the people around you, you can all hold hands together in a circle around this person, depending on whatever belief system or non-belief system you have, to say a few words. It could be a prayer, it could be a song together. Sometimes it's just a moment of very profound silence, just to create a special moment. And if you have prepared for that moment and you knew it was coming, maybe you have brought some incense, you have brought some sage that you can light now. Most hospitals don't mind if you just do this for 2 minutes or something, and to surround that person with that smoke of that pure wonderful incense, because it is a purifying and clarifying energy that comes from incense. And so it definitely creates a mystical and beautiful sacred atmosphere. Maybe if you're at home, you can put some candles on, and then when you have time enough and everybody in the room is okay with it, you can also say, okay, let's prepare this body. If you have a death midwife, like me, for example, of course you have called her before and I help you through that transition, then I will guide you in how to wash that person. Otherwise, you can do that yourself. Maybe you've been a caregiver for a long time. So that means, make sure this person is in the room only with people who would be comfortable and who this person would be comfortable with, having them see them naked. And so otherwise ask the people to step out for a moment. Take slowly and gently the clothes off. At this point, it's sometimes difficult to lift somebody because they're really not helping anymore. So if it's necessary, you can sometimes cut a gown in the back if you don't want to really lift it over their head or something like this. But often people just lie in bed in very comfortable loose clothes, and this should not be a problem. And so you take the clothes off, you cover maybe with a little towel or something their privates, just to always respect their privacy. This person who just passed, meaning left their body, is very much around and is watching you and is totally present and aware of what all of you are doing and feeling in this room. So treat them accordingly. Treat them with love and care and respect. So then maybe take some warm water and some nice soap or oil and sponge bath this person a little. It's not necessarily about really rubbing them. There's very few ceremonies, for example, in the Jewish Tahara, where you really rub somebody hard to clean them 3 times. Most of the washings after passing are more like ceremonial washings, that you honor one last time the body of this person, by sponge bathing them, by drying them carefully. Just be gentle with them. If you feel comfortable with these kind of things, or if you have been a caregiver of this person, you can of course also change their diapers. Often people in the dying state release all muscles, and so everything might happen, and so it's good to put a diaper on also for later transportation. And but if it's not possible, the funeral home will deal with this. And so then you can either dress this person again if you want to do this right away. We sometimes do a closing of the chakra ceremony, which I will explain in another take. And so if you dress the person again, pick some clothes that are loose and easy to put on, and also clothes that the decedent, the person who died, really would have loved or really loves. And you can of course put a little jewelry on, and maybe in the meantime one person can go and get some flowers. If you are at home, you have the luxury of staying in the same space, keeping the person in their own bed, and then having maybe a few rose petals spread around them, or put them on a nice beautiful blanket, or cover them with a beautiful blanket, at least their upper body or something. To prepare them and to lay the hands over the chest like this is often a very peaceful sight for many people, because the people who will come to see this body, they often want to touch them. And the hands are a good space where they want to touch them. They often touch their faces. They just want to express their love. They kiss them on the forehead. So it's important that these places are clean and that, they are easily accessible. So the next step then, of course, is to determine who wants to come and see that person who has passed away, of the closest relative, before they're being picked up. So if already the whole family is assembled, that's easy. If it's a more surprising thing, then you might have to get